I remember seeing Astro Bot get announced during the May 2024 State of Play, immediately not only impressed that Sony of all studios were creating a full game based on Astro's Playroom, but that they were releasing a new AAA 3D platformer. In an era where Sony's big PS5 releases are simple PS4 remasters of games that already run on the hardware, seeing a game that is filled to the brim with not only tons of originality and callbacks to what makes the PlayStation IP so special, but also a game that just looks incredibly fun and player first. I just knew I had to check this game out. And it was upon further investigation that I found out that Astro Bot was just the latest in a series of games starring the little guys that populate its world, those being the Astro Bot, and Playroom series. The Playroom series consists of 3 free titles that PlayStation released pre-installed on your system to fidget around with some of the system's peripherals or controllers, with the Astro Bot games being successors to them, instead being full experiences. Now, having played all of them to completion, I thought I'd detail my thoughts and recommendations on each of them and see if some of the older titles still stand up, while seeing how Astro became the platforming icon he is today. The first game, The Playroom, was a packing game pre-installed on every PS4 at the system's launch in November 2013, and is an app used to test out features utilizing the PlayStation camera peripheral. I myself have never owned a PlayStation camera, let alone a PSVR, so after years and years of owning a PS4, I finally borrowed a PSVR from a friend and tried it out. And while it is just an hour-long short little tech demo for the camera itself, it honestly was a fairly fun experience overall. I can see that on launch that this would have easily been a very, very boring experience, with you really only being able to play with a Sobi, play with a group of bots walking around your room or inside your DualShock 4, or playing air hockey with a buddy using the touchpad. Getting all of the trophies in these modes would definitely take you less than 20 minutes, but let me tell you, playing around with those AR bots was a blast. I tried introducing them to alcoholism, rampaged them Godzilla style, enabled their alcoholism, abandoned them after going out to get milk, etc. Now, the free DLC that was released afterwards does make this package a lot better overall. I think Toymaker and AR Studio are a little lackluster, both utilizing the PlayStation Second Screen app, which this game was not updated to give you proper instructions on when they removed the feature from the PlayStation app proper and made it its own app, so that shit took forever to set up. But still, in Toymaker, you just draw whatever or throw out pre-made stuff for your AR bots to play with, and in AR Studio, you just decorate your room using your phone as the controller to set things up like lights, put a mask on your head, change your controller lights, etc. All pretty lackluster stuff, but are nice novelties to play around with. My Alien Buddy is the first mode that feels like a proper game. You use gyro controls to move around this little alien and his UFO throughout these little tiny stages of little toy buildings, figurines, barns, cars, and whatnot, and I guess the objective is to suck up the golden figures in each little set to move on to the next one. At one point there's a big ass rave, but that's really it. Not a whole lot to do, and not the most engaging or fun thing ever. But what is fun and engaging is ninja bots. This shit rocked. You play as, well, a ninja bot, and use gyro controls to move across this linear auto-run level, collecting coins along the way, all while shooting shuriken at incoming enemies by flicking forwards on the touchpad, and jumping by jolting the controller upwards to dodge obstacles. I ended up playing this mode a handful of times to get all the trophies, and even though there's only one level, each run was just as fun as the last. Overall, the Playroom is a really neat little tech demo. For years, I never really knew what it was or ever really looked into it, but I'm glad that I finally got around to checking it out. There's no real reason for me to ever go back to this, but if I were to, it would be to experience the joy that is ninja bots. A free PSVR game on the PSN store for all users at the peripheral's launch in October 2016, the Playroom VR acts as a brief minigame compilation, and it's a pretty damn fun one at that. I first played the Playroom VR several years ago with my cousin when he brought over his PSVR for a weekend, and honestly I don't remember a whole lot about the experience besides the fact that he's always vouched that the game is fantastic, and now I have to agree. I didn't realize at first that this game was so multiplayer focused, with one player wearing the VR headset, and the other players joining in by playing on the TV, either with or without a controller, which made me really appreciate the modes that made it so you didn't have to use a second controller, or even one. It does make me wish that there were more single player options, but part of the magic here is the party aspect. One mode that really allowed me to appreciate this setup was Wanted. The TV player looks at wanted posters of a criminal bot in the bar, while the VR player has to find and shoot them with a plunger gun based on the TV player's instructions. I loved having my friend shout out all the features to best describe the culprit while frantically looking for them myself, especially on the higher or endless difficulties. Such a great mode. Ghost House was yet another great mode, where only the player looking at the TV can see where the ghosts are, but only if the VR player shines light directly on them, so you've really got to work together to get all of the ghosts in a good time. This one ramps up in difficulty and becomes a great challenge. Heavy Luigi's Mansion vibes here. So much fun. In Monster Escape, the VR player acts as a kaiju-like monster attacking the city, moving your head around to knock yourself into buildings, causing debris to fall into the TV players below, running around saving civilians from the attack, with a battle between the heroes and monster capping off the game. No difficulties here or any other levels or courses, just one quick run through this mode. It's alright and definitely nothing to write home about. Cat and Mouse is pretty fun. The VR player acts as the cat, hiding behind a set of curtains, only able to make out the silhouettes of the TV players who are acting as mice trying to steal all of the cheese off of the floor. The VR player's goal is to catch all of the mice while they're moving around in order to win the round, but if the mice aren't moving when the cat comes out, the mice are safe. If the mice gets all of the cheese, the VR player loses, not to mention the dog who constantly gets in the way if the cat stays out for too long. A pretty fun mode with not a whole lot to do in it, but still fun regardless. Next is Robot Rescue, the debut of our beloved Astro on a brief little mission to save 20 of his bot buddies who have been scattered across the singular level. For a brief little tech demo of this concept, a 3D platform whose camera is controlled by a VR headset is pretty neat, but isn't really all that groundbreaking or fun to get through. There are just simply too many bots to find, some of which you can't even get to if you don't have a second player assisting you via the TV and another controller, and even if you do miss a bot, there is really no practical way of going back in the level, because walking backwards against the camera causes the VR camera to ever so slowly crawl backward through the stage, and holy shit, if I kept my eyes open while that crawl was happening, I would become so nauseous. There has to have been a better way around this setup. Anyway, this mode still controls pretty well, but never wowed me a whole lot. Still, a sweet little introduction to Astro, and I'm glad that they didn't give up on this concept and expanded it into a full game, but more on that in a minute. Minibots is just simply a gacha machine mode where you use tokens collected from the main modes to go towards getting little figures of bots doing shit from said other modes. Just a cute little time waster, nothing all too interesting or engaging. There was one piece of free DLC, that being Toy Wars, where the VR Playrooms are canon, shooting balls out at blocky enemies that come out of one of 3 little caves. It's up to you and whoever else joins in the fight with you to defeat all of the enemies and ultimately the mothership that they come from in order to save all of your little bot buddies behind you. Overall, the Playroom VR is yet another great time waster, but unlike its predecessor, it's a lot more engaging, a lot more fun, and can be a blast with the right people in the right modes. Wanted is something I can see myself returning to time and time again, with Ghost House not being too far behind. The next entry in the Playroom series wouldn't be until the launch of the PS5, but that didn't stop Astro from getting his own little solo adventure in the meantime. If there were any one game that people recommend to play on PSVR, it'd be Astro Bot Rescue Mission, a cutesy little 3D platformer that was the precursor to both Astro's Playroom and Game of the Year 2024 winner Astro Bot, marking it the first true game in the Astro Bot series, releasing in October 2018. Hailed as an utterly fantastic 3D platformer with the gimmick of the camera being your literal eyes and a great successor to Bot Rescue in the Playroom VR, this game is certainly a great 3D platformer, but not one that I would call the greatest ever in my eyes, but that's certainly not to say that it isn't great nonetheless. We have this cute little setup where the stupid bitch-ass alien steals the VR headset off the bot's ship, destroying it in the process and scattering the 213 bots aboard across the galaxy. So now it's up to Astro, captain of the bots, to rescue all of his little buddies and get the pieces of the ship back, including the VR headset from this ugly, bratty green fucker. There are 4 levels in each world, not including the boss level that caps off each one. Each level has 8 bots that you can rescue along with a chameleon that is simply found by staring at it with your headset for a few seconds when finding it tucked away in a level, and doing so unlocks challenge stages, but more on those later. My biggest gripe with Rescue Mission overall is the exploration in these levels, and I think it's mainly due to this game being on a VR platform. I do really like the idea of exploring every nook and cranny of a platformer level by literally looking around the level with your own head and eyes, but it was so aggravating to realize that I had missed a bot and was unable to go backward through the level, as once you get to a certain checkpoint, you can't go back, making finding all of the bots in one go pretty tough at times. Your only real hint is their adorable little "help me" cries as you pass them by, but even then, it's never entirely obvious where they are, as some can be tucked away pretty well, even if you can hear them nearby. This kind of exploration worked well with the chameleons though, as those were always really rewarding to find and there were no real hints regarding them. It was just annoying to get to the end of a level knowing that I'd have to replay through it to find the 1 or 2 bots that I missed my first go around. Not the biggest issue in the grand scheme, as the levels themselves and gameplay are still great, but still a big enough issue for me to consider whenever I'm thinking of my overall opinion on the game itself. The gameplay and game feel itself is super smooth and really fun to control. I love using Astro's little jets as an extra hover jump to assist with platforming while also acting as an attack when jumping over enemies. Same goes with his little punches. I love how it feels to connect those. The camera movement overall is definitely an improvement over the Playroom VR, so perhaps the nauseous feeling of the camera scrolling backwards there was why they made that no longer possible here. Platforming while tilting your head around to follow your movements with Astro is really fun, especially during the challenge levels, which are definitely my favorite part of the game. The level variety here can be pretty varied, although my favorite one was the level featuring all the bamboo shoots and temples, where you use shuriken to chop down the bamboo to make platforms for yourself, or just stick ninja stars in the walls as platforms. There are other little gimmick gizmos that you get to use throughout the game, one standing out to me being the water one that you get in certain lava levels that lets you solidify said lava into walkable platforms. Another nitpick I have is that I didn't enjoy a majority of the bosses in this game and think they could have been better overall. I did enjoy the gorilla and spider bosses, but I feel like the rest of the bosses were just dragged out a little too long and just weren't as fun as those aforementioned ones. That also unfortunately includes the final boss, which while I did appreciate that it incorporated all the controller gimmicks seen throughout the game, the phases in between just lasted a little too long for me, although I probably would say that I enjoyed the boss overall. My favorite part of the game, as mentioned earlier, was all the challenge levels that the game rewards you for finding the chameleons in each level. Depending on how well you do in each challenge, you can either rescue 1 or 2 bots. You unlock the boss challenges automatically, which are just tests to see if you can beat them without taking damage, and there are score-based ones with a shuriken and water shooter. But the best ones were just the brief little platforming challenges that tested your skill against the timer. The amount of fun I had while playing those, especially the laser level in the clouds, was super fun and very satisfying to complete. Just thinking about replaying those challenge levels provides me with fun. Genuinely, if the entire game was like this, I think it would have been utterly fantastic in my eyes. The gacha system from the Playroom VR also returns, which functions the same as it did in that game, just being something to do with all of the coins and tokens that you collect in each level. Not really all that cool, but still nice that it's here. Overall, Astro Bot Rescue Mission is a really fun, neat, and brief little 3D platformer that I'm so glad that I finally got around to checking out. I can definitely see why so many people recommend it, and it's an absolute shame that Sony has imported it to the PS5 and by extension the PSVR 2. We can get a Days Gone, Last of Us Part 2, and Until Dawn re-release, but no Astro? It only took me around 11 hours to 100% complete the entire game, which is just the perfect amount of time for a platformer such as this. It is so obvious how this game laid the groundwork for Astro's Playroom and Astro Bot to only improve upon this game's foundation, breaking free from the VR gimmick and allowing you to freely roam around open levels to your heart's content. Even so, this was a great true start to the Astro Bot series and a game I would also tell anyone with a PSVR to check out. Every PS5 owner knows Astro's Playroom, the cute little 3D platformer that comes built in with the console. It serves as the third game in the Playroom series and the second in the Astro Bot series. It is easily the most well-known of the bunch, much more than the original on PS4, with the Playroom VR at least having its fans. But taking the great gameplay and overall structure from Astro Bot Rescue Mission and making a 4-hour sequel to it, not only showcasing the underutilized capabilities of the DualSense controller, but also acting as a celebration of PlayStation's console lineup leading up to the PS5 is a genuinely ingenious idea, not even mentioning that the game itself is phenomenal. The overall freedom that is now provided due to the free camera allows Astro to play much smoother and tighter than ever before, allowing him to roam the game's 4 levels with ease. Collecting all of the game's artifacts, PlayStation consoles, and accessories from the past, alongside the puzzle pieces to fill up the wall mural, are incredibly fun and rewarding and are great collectibles for the brief amount of levels that this game has in store. Each level has its own unique theme and gimmick to accompany said theme. In GPU Jungle, you have the monkey bot that has you literally swinging the controller to scale your way up the wall. In SSD Speedway, you have the little rocket ship where you balance its boosters with presses on the haptic triggers. In Cooling Springs, you have the frog that has you tilting the controller in your desired direction while pressing the right trigger to hop along, and the Sphere Memory Meadow has you rolling the ball around with the touchpad. I actually adore how each level represents a different component that makes the PS5 itself work, the GPU, cooling, SSD memory, etc. Just a really neat touch when you consider that this entire package is just to show off the hardware itself. These gimmicks, along with others that have you blowing into the controller's microphone or listening to its speakers, were just surreal to experience, which is saying a lot when this console's been out for nearly 5 years and nothing has taken much advantage over its unique control options as this little bite-sized platformer. To go back to the gameplay itself, Astro feels fantastic to control. Using his little hover jump to cross gaps, open crates, or defeat enemies has never felt so good. This is genuinely one of those games that you load up for a bit just to mess around with Astro because of how fun and responsive it is to play as the little guy. The level theming is already great, but the level design itself is also fantastic. There aren't just a bajillion PlayStation references hidden amongst beautiful locales, but the actual layout of the environment is just so well thought out when it comes to exploration and overall platforming fun. Speaking of those PlayStation references, I feel like a lot of players, myself included, learned about a lot of neat one-off accessories through the artifacts, like the PSP camera, the Pocket Station, along with many other neat peripherals and whatnot. And you can't forget all the neat little cameos from bots dressed as some iconic PlayStation associated characters spotted throughout your journey. The end of every level pays heavy homage to the main menu and startup screens from each of Sony's previous 4 consoles, which is a really neat addition on top of all of the other references. I mean, sometimes even the UI itself changes to match that of the console you just added to your collection room. How neat is that? You've of course got some challenge and speedrun levels thrown in here that serve no other purpose than to just be some sweet, engaging, and fast-paced platforming fun. They're just here to add to the overall enjoyment, and I'd say that these are just as good as Rescue Mission's best challenge levels. Even the ones themed entirely around the control gimmicks are incredibly fun and intuitive, and that's not even something that Mario Galaxy can boast at times, a clear and direct inspiration for this game. Genuinely a great post-launch addition. The final boss of the game being inspired by the first ever PS1 tech demo that showcased a 3D model of a T-Rex is honestly so fucking cool, especially with the screen itself turning 4x3. They even got the texture flickering on the model, and even the enemies are now rendered in low poly. Just so cool. I personally feel like it might have been cooler for 4K Rex to have been a hyper-realistic T-Rex instead of having a generic Astro Bot boss design, but the fight itself was still pretty cool overall. One post-launch addition that I would like to nitpick though are the secret bots, those being a Nightmare Guardian from Bloodborne, an Ape from Ape Escape, a Pro Driver from Gran Turismo, and a Stranded Scout from Returnal. If you're trying to find these fuckers blind, good fucking luck, because it is genuinely insanely cryptic as to how you're supposed to unlock these guys, and I swear with some of them, one wrong move on your way to getting them, and you've lost out on your chance entirely. There is absolutely no way I would ever find these guys without a guide. Just really annoying in my opinion to have something so cryptic and hard to obtain in this game of all places. Might just be me though. The gacha machine from the last few games is back. There's just a few prizes to use your coins to get more artifacts and puzzle pieces that are in the main levels, with updates adding new PS5 accessories and models over time. Overall, Astro's Playroom is a great time and a fantastic 3D platformer. I'm genuinely kicking myself that it took so long to finally get around to playing it. I mean, front to back, it took me just a little over 4 hours to 100% complete the game, so why the hell did I put it off for so long? If you have a PS5, just do yourself a favor and play this already, and if you like it, I have a feeling the full package sequel will be a good deal for you. So here we are, back at the game that was my reason for making this video in the first place. Game of the Year 2024 winner, Astro Bot, a game truly deserving of that win. I was pretty shocked to find out that this, along with the rest of the games covered, were made by the remnants of Japan's studio, now Team Asobi, the original team that brought games like Parappa the Rappa, Wild Arms, Ape Escape, Vib Ribbon, basically all of the cutesy fun first-party classics from PlayStation. They were responsible. So despite their unfortunate shutdown, this unexpected Game of the Year winner sticks out as a shining light in a time where Sony refuses to represent their older IPs or make new games akin to them. When people compare Astro Bot to Super Mario Galaxy, sometimes even touting it as worthy as being considered like Super Mario Galaxy 3, you know that this game is an immediate titan in the 3D platformer genre. This game acts as a full sequel to Astro Bot Rescue Mission, featuring the returning alien fuckface bully breaking apart the bot's PS5-shaped mothership, scattering the 4 parts from Astro's Playroom and all of the bots aboard across the galaxy, an adventure structured more like Rescue Mission in terms of its level-based structure, but with more open levels akin to Astro's Playroom. Stranded on a desert planet and alone, it's once again up to Captain Astro to go across the cosmos to save all of his bot buddies and repair the mothership. Rescuing bots is at its peak here. You're finally given an indicator when you rescue a given bot as to which one it is, and therefore if you've missed one at any point in the level. Same thing if you were to pause the game to see if you've missed any puzzle pieces or bots, as unlike Rescue Mission, the pause menu loads so fast that it never poses an issue like in that game. Going back through levels to find missing bots or secret exits is still just as fun as going through the first time. As your first time in, I typically found myself taking things slow in order to find as many bots as possible, with the second briefer run of breezing through the level being equally as fun as you already know your way through. Each level in this game are all of the best levels from the entire series. Every level theme, every gimmick, every environment from the grasslands or the jungles, ice-filled treats, the more architectural ones, the underground caves, from the sands of the beach to the sands in front of the pyramids, to the spooky woods and manors to the temples hidden in the bamboo. This game is filled with so many great and fantastic levels and gimmicks that make this platformer one every fan of the genre has to experience. From the frog gloves that are used to punch enemies or grapple onto objects, the mouse transformation that shrinks you down, the monkey partner that brings back that mechanic from Astro's Playroom, the sponge-like mechanic to soak up water and grow in size, the chimp with the symbols that opens up platforms or shocks enemies, the rocket-propelled bulldog, the octopus that essentially acts like the blimp fruit from Mario Galaxy 2, the little guy with the trunk that creates floating platforms, like the cloud flower from Mario Galaxy 2, to the watch that slows down time to a crawl. All of these gimmicks and power-ups are also incredibly polished, fun, and intuitive to play with, despite just how many of them there are featured in this relatively smaller game, considering it only takes 12 to 14 hours to 100% complete everything it has to offer, including the free updates that we'll get to later. I also love how many ways there are to use Astro's base moveset throughout each level, like using his jet boosters to break glass, spinning to dig into certain spots in the dirt, spinning platforms forward, etc. I feel like Astro has never felt better to play, and I can't quite put my finger on it. Maybe nothing has changed control-wise, maybe it's just a fantastic level design itself, but this game is just so fun to control. Every aspect of playing as Astro feels incredibly tight and responsive, and I feel like a broken record saying that with each game in the series, but this has never been truer here. Never in my personal experience has a 3D platformer had such simplistic yet tight and intuitive controls while also having impeccable and flawless level design. This game is so fun to just throw on and fool around in the hub world for a bit. Speaking of the hub world, the crash site is split up into segments that can only be accessed depending on how many bots you've rescued and brought back to the site with you, who tag along to help you out in these uncharted areas of the bot's new home in order to find some extra goodies and save a few more bots. One thing I haven't particularly liked in the previous Astro Bot games are the bosses, and I'm so happy to say that this entry essentially perfects them. Each of the main bosses here were incredibly fun fights that were not only great spectacles, but also just fun tests of your platforming skills. Whether it's against the gorilla, octopus, snake, chameleon, or bird, they're all great bosses, and I'm so glad that they stepped up their game this time around in this department. There are also a load of mini bosses which are also equally as fun and just as creative. Just so good. This game focuses fairly heavily on the cameo bots that represent characters from many games across PlayStation's rich history. Not just first-party games, but any series that has a close association with the line of consoles. Just seeing each series I recognize being represented put a smile on my face, and anything I didn't immediately recognize intrigued me to find out about a series I may have missed out on in the past. But the real gems when it comes to cameos and representation are the special levels at the end of each world that not only pay heavy homage to Ape Escape, God of War, Uncharted, Loco Roco, and Horizon, but also replicate their overall gameplay, feel, and world within the confines of Astro Bot's pre-existing gameplay structure. My personal favorite of these were the Ape Escape and Loco Roco levels, but I feel like those ones appeal more to my specific gaming taste and what I'm familiar with, but still, rolling my little guys around and running around catching those apes, just so neat. It even prompted me to buy the first Ape Escape on my PS5, and that's the magic of this game, shining light on series from the past so that new and fresher eyes such as myself can check them out. Even the final boss is fucking awesome. You fly across your little DualSense ship, shooting obstacles and enemies in this awesome shoot-'em-up style with this awesome music from Thunder Force playing in the background as guest spots them throughout your journey arrive on ships modeled after each system, helping you out on your way to get to that fucker-face alien bitch cunt. The actual final boss against the alien himself is just as awesome, as he spins a wheel dictating what gimmick you'll use to fight against him. Once you finally defeat him and recover the CPU chip, the alien comes back for one last attempt at getting Astro, only to have his UFO blasted to pieces, separating the black hole powering it, sucking him into it, and attempting to bring Astro in there with him. In this surprisingly heartfelt moment, all of the bots attempt to help Astro by entering a formation to keep him tethered to the ground, but in an act of self-sacrifice, Astro lets go, falling into the black hole with his lifeless husk coming back out. And just like fixing the components of the PS5 once you get them at the end of each world, you pick up Astro and fix him, giving him his heart back and bringing him back to life as the playable credits roll. A fucking incredible ending. I haven't even brought up the many great challenge levels in each world that are all fucking phenomenal and are great little bites of optional difficulty in case a more inexperienced player wants to skip by them, and even some fun little enemy gauntlets against voxel versions of the game's enemies. If you explore enough, you'll find secret exits that unlock new levels in the Lost Galaxy, rewarding you with more game for playing the game. Even the extra levels that they added via free updates are all super fun, like the 5 time trial challenges in Stellar Speedway or the 5 Ambitious Void, acting as good challenges for some of the gameplay gimmicks. And the Winter Wonder level released for the holiday season was also a really nice exploration-based level that incorporated all of the game's power-ups, setting itself apart from the rest of the game's levels. I like how they added representation for lesser-known games like Croc and Gex, and also managed to fit in both of Insomniac's Spider-Man. Overall, it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone who's played this game that Astro Bot won Game of the Year. In a time where Nintendo has been the only big company to put out 3D platformers in recent years, Team Asobi drew from every aspect of the genre's past, visible or not, in order to craft what will inevitably be touted as one of the best 3D platformers of all time for years and years to come. I am so glad that this game has brought new light to so many classic and iconic IPs while also breathing new life into a genre of games that I adore so much. I hope and pray that Team Asobi not only get yet another crack at making another fantastic and phenomenal platformer, but also the ability to branch out beyond the Astro IP and continue down the path that Japan's studio walked so long ago, aka Astro Bot 2 now, please! After playing each of Astro's adventures, it's no wonder why the little guy has become so quickly loved by platforming fans the world over. He emits such cuteness and charm with each experience he stars in, playing beautifully simplistic while also tight and intuitive like the big boys over at Nintendo, who the devs properly thanked during their Game of the Year acceptance speech, and the reason why is clear as day. Astro Bot wears its inspirations on its sleeve, whether it's the many PlayStation and third-party IPs that make up the actual cameos in the games, or the gameplay inspirations from Nintendo's 3D catalog. This series stands out during an era where PlayStation continues to deliver samey experiences that appeal to the broader AAA market, so it is incredibly refreshing to see Astro get his flowers. I have a feeling that this won't be the end of Astro's journeys, and hell, Astro Bot will probably get a lot more updates in the future, but until then, thanks for watching.